Morning, it's time for another ranking video. For those that have followed my channel for some time, you will know that I have been doing a top 10 best albums as I see them, and I started this way back in 1967. We're now on to 2013, still a decade away from the here and now, and I have to confess it's becoming more difficult as we move through the tens. To explain, the era of digital downloads was very much in full swing in this decade, and being in Thailand where I can't really buy vinyl, I downloaded a heap. In fact, I have at least 85 albums released in this year. Now, it goes without saying that I haven't listened to all of those albums repeatedly so that I'm familiar with them. Some of them have only had a one listen. So my top 10 here is very much a select band of albums from those 85 that I decided to repeat listening, and they developed into my ranking list. So, having noted that there are probably 70 other albums, some of which you may well love, I really would appreciate you to put them in the comments. So maybe I can listen to them again, and possibly even a few that I haven't actually downloaded. Now, to some honourable mentions that didn't make the top 10. They include The Last Ship by Sting, a very interesting album set in Sting's Newcastle homeland, where his songs give an array of shipyard tales and reference to his father, of course. The British Sea Power, From the Sea to the Land Beyond, is also a very interesting indie rock album. Elvis Costello and the Roots, Wise Up Ghost. I have to confess, this is not one of my favourites, but being Costello, it's still worth a listen. Cupid Deluxe by Blood Orange is a very, very good sort of rap, hip-hop style album. I'm not that familiar with this genre, but this did turn my head. Fade by Yo Le Tango is a very interesting sort of synthesized instrumental type sound. Push the Sky Away, the latest from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. There's an absolutely brilliant track on here called Jubilee Street, which is well worth getting hold of. And Waking on a Pretty Daze, a bit of a daisy experience for me with Kurt Weill. This does grow on you. And trying to finish these off quite quickly, Once I Was an Eagle by Laura Marling. I do like this English singer-songwriter. And St. Vincent with Annie Clark. She released Strange Mercy. I have to confess I need to listen to this more. Suede returned with Blood Sports. No surprises here, but good solid indie rock. Anything in Return was a very interesting album by Terry Y. Mo. And then two of the heavyweights. Paul McCartney released a new album called New, which I again haven't listened to enough, but it's certainly solid. And then there's this sort of release from the Jimi Hendrix archive called People, Hell and Angels, and there's some superlative work on this. So those are the honourable mentions and my blabbing on about this decade. I guess we better get on to the top 10. Let's get on to the top 10 now. I have to confess that I've got 11 here. Miscalculating, maths not in my strong point these days. So there's two number 10s. The first of which is Old Sock by Eric Clapton. It's his 20th studio album. First on an independent label, however. Eric sticks to the blues mix with country ballad rock, but he does throw in some reggae rhythms to remind us of his wide repertoire of influences. Who can forget the amazing reggae on 461 Ocean Boulevard back in the 70s. Amongst the 12 here, there are 2 new songs, but neither of them are written by Eric. The album has a nostalgic, sunny feel to it, and as always, the musicianship is 5-star. I'm going to go over some of the tracks now to give you a flavour. I'm going to do a little bit more of this now with these top 10s than I used to, so they become more of a sort of review feel. Gotta Get Over is a blues rock. Eric gives us a glimpse of the wah-wah expertise. Every Little Thing is a reggae bounce to it's infectious, it has to be said. And the chorus at the outro are courtesy of some school children. Otis Redding's Your One and Only Man is an adapted reggae beat that works, and there's some fleeting harmonica which mixes well with the female backing vocals. Those female vocals are a highlight throughout the album. Further on up the road is Taj Mahal, of course. Eric again turns his intro into an adapted reggae shuffle, and the female chorus remind you of I Shot the Sheriff. Then we've got Till Your Well Runs Dry. This is a Peter Tosh song, and it starts as a ballad before the chunky reggae vibe takes over. It's foot-tapping stuff to be sure. Next we've still got the blues. This is Eric's tribute to Gary Moore. Eric showcases both on acoustic and electric here. The acoustic intro has a nice organ rhythm arrangement that leads into the powerful soulful vocals, and of course then the guitar solo, very much reminiscent of Moore's style. All of Me is a 12-bar blues with honky piano, and Eric is joined by one Paul McCartney on bass and shared lead vocals. And the final track here is Ledbetty's Good Night Irene, which has accordion, violin and slide guitar, and this version runs a close second to the Ry Cooder version that's I think on his debut album way back in the 70s. The backing vocals are again a standout. So that's my take of Old Sock. Joining in at number 10 is Bankrupt by Phoenix, the French synth pop band. This is power pop excellence, and it's their fifth album, and of course it adds in those whimsical wordplays by frontman Thomas Mars. I really like this band. In fact, a previous album has got into the top 10, Wolfgang Amadeus, from a few years back. There's a glittering funfair sound that bombards your brain with energy and laser beam choruses throughout, and that enables the K-pop synth melodies to flourish into a pop extravaganza. Entertainment is the opus, an example of all that. The centerpiece is the title track with some thumping chimes, heart-melting choruses and some frenzied beats. The final section hints at 70s prog rock, more prog electronica really, without the rhythm. But it is progressive. Repeated listens of this album will pay off for you. So that's my number 10 joint one, Bankrupt by Phoenix. And then Modern Vampires in the City by Vampire Weekend. This is their third offering, and it attempts a little bit to depart from their African-influenced indie pop style on their previous records. It's broadly experimental. The album's sound was a result of a variety of unconventional recording assets, including pitch shifting. God knows what that is, but musicians will probably be able to make me more aware. The subjects explored on the record include characters with adult responsibilities, reflections on growing old, mortality and religious faith. Pitch shifting, proved a major component of recording the album, and it's a sound recording technique in which the original pitch of a sound is raised or lowered, and the effects of raising or lowering the pitch by a pre-designated music interval, and they're called pitch shifters. Now you know. This quirky theatrical indie rock style plus Ezra Koenig's distinctive vocal delivery results in you either loving or hating the overall sound. Personally, I love it, but using a genre to describe it is a bit misleading. I'm going to have a quick look at the tracks now, and as I say, Unbelievers is a catchy, very catchy song early on, with extreme funk-like beats with those African rhythms. Step, which contains elements from Aubrey by David Gates, and Yazoo's Who's That Girl in its hook, has a chamber-style keyboard feel which float over you, and note the harpsichord lilting and the classical tones for sure. Diane Young, here the band explode into manic alt-rock mode. The originality continues throughout this album in abundance, but it tests your patience and isn't for those who like simple melodies. Repeated listens are essential. So that's my number 9, Modern Vampires from the City. So to 8 now, and this is AM by Arctic Monkeys. It's their 5th studio release. And you may recall that this band became the first internet success story a handful of years back. That truly independent. Well, that's changed. They now offer, though, a mix of psych rock, hard rock, blues rock and R&B textures. And this album has some added instrumentation. There's some piano, there's some Celeste and a drum machine. But Alex Turner's unmistakable vocal style remains. That fixed 50s mix with 70s punk is always a big plus, and the sound is full of passion and realism, with a paranoid, haunted feel. The opener, Do You Want to Know, purrs with a great guitar riff and lots of attitude, and it's certainly typical of what's on this album. I consider this their best so far, and that is AM at number 8. So to 7 then. This is Beyonce, titled Beyonce, her 5th album since those Destiny Child days. It's a bit brassy, elegant and sonically experimental, and I love it. And the songs generate great atmosphere. The critics might say that she's full of bubblegum pop and R&B. But they need to put the headphones on and groove, I say. It was originally released in visual format in 2013, although the reissue in audio formats arrived a year later. The opener, Pretty Hurts, is full of what is great about African-American female soul R&B singers. Drunk in love, frozen in spoken word storytelling, but the impact is both powerful and emotional. Blow creates a Stevie Wonder feel early on, and Rocket is awesome. Throughout, Beyonce sells the concept of monogamy being romantic and attractive as a way of life. Good for her. The album's a great listen for lovers of black music who want to move to the rhythms. If you've put her albums on the shelf and said, not my thing, I suggest you get them off, dust them off, listen to her. She is a class act. 6 then, this is Come Down Machine by The Strokes. If you remember, they exploded onto the music scene a decade back with the cutting alt-rock album Is This It? Great things were thought for the future for this band, and many saw it was a dead cert. However, things didn't go that well, and although 2011 Angles showed a return to form, Come Down Machine, their 5th, consolidates that renewed enthusiasm. It's full of brilliant pop songs with that alt-rock edge, the propulsive groove of the opener Tap Out with the guitar break that defines this band. Casablancas is in eloquent form on the title track. One Way Trigger has that manic rhythm that bounces with the lead vocal, and Welcome to Japan vibrates to necessitate foot tapping. Think of Flea's bass work with the Chili Peppers and you've grasped the vibe. The final cut, Call It Fame, Call It Karma, is a dreamable venture into different waters, although it works for me anyway. Absolutely great album. 5 now, this is Privateering by Mark Loeffler. Just to get the definitions right, privateers was a term that historically described pirates who were offered work by corrupt governments and institutions. And Knopfler has used the concept as a theme for this double album released in the US in 2013. It was released in the UK a year earlier. The album again mixes finger-picking blues elements with seafaring shanty-style songs, some with arrangements. Some of the songs have a country blues feel. We have fiddles, we have whistles, mandolins, a bouzouki, which I think is a sort of Greek instrument, accordion, and pipes. And it's all added to that genteel, lazy guitar flow that Knopfler thrives on. It's an absolutely gorgeous listen, best at night, and Knopfler's stories, of course, are fascinating. Tracks to highlight: Don't Forget Your Hat, where the blues is brought to life with piano and harmonica, and a number of others, which I'm not going to mention here now because it just takes... the one that comes to mind is Seattle, which is a very soft, gentle, ballady side of song. And there's some good blues on here as well. Okay, that is my number 5, Privateering by Mark Knopfler. Yeah, I gave a nod to Beyonce. Number 4, I've chosen another fantastic black artist, a female black singer. Her name is Janelle Monáe, and this is her 3rd album, The Electric Lady. The Electric Lady, not The Electric Ladyland. The album includes guests and quite an array of guests. Solange, that's Beyonce's sister, of course. Erykah Badu, Miguel, Esperanza Spalding, and the pick of the lot is one Prince, who performs on Given What They Love, playing guitar and some backing vocals. This album is a collage of R&B, pop, disco, soul, bits of hip hop, bits of rap, and the harmonies are there to die for. It's got some delectable arrangements. And the album's broken into 2 halves called the 4th and 5th Metropolis Suite. To quote AllMusic's review, Suite 4 is the album's busier and more ostentatious half, more star-studded and less focused, highlighted by the bopping dance Apocalyptic and the strutting Badu duet Queen. Suite 5 is considerably stronger, with a handful of firmly R&B rooted gems, shades of Stevie's 70s work are heard in more obvious ways. Ghetto Woman is impeccably layered soul funk, fluid and robust at once, with that chunky percussion and synthesized lines bounding about as Monáe delivers a performance as proud and as powerful as Stevie Wonder's Black Man. The enraptured liquid slide of Dorothy Dandridge Eyes, featuring Spalding, and she's also on It's Code. However, Monáe channels the yearning Jackson 5 era through Michael's work on Can't Live Without Your Love. Creative R&B that owes to the past but sounds very fresh. All in all, it's a wonderful listen to all of you who love quality black music. And those pop fans should wallow in the superlatives delivered by Monáe. She's also a great actress, by the way. See her in Harriet, released in 2019, and Hidden Figures in 2016. What a talent. The Electric Lady, my number 4, by Janelle Monáe. So to the top 3 then, a bit of a stutter there. At number 3 is The Next Day by David Bowie. Rumours of retirement through serious illness have come up in more than once in the preceding 10 years, where that's the time he was out of the spotlight after that heart attack. This is, however, was his 24th studio, and it came out of the blue, really. He hasn't only come to terms with his past, but he's making his old material work for his new material. For Bowie, the always savvy son of a public relations man, it's good for business and it's good for art. The title track, Where Are You Now? Where Are We Now? And The Stars Are Out Tonight have all been released as singles in the UK, and the middle song became his first top 10 hit since 1993. Sum it up, the next day started out trying to do something new, but something old kept creeping in. That's a quote from Tony Visconti, and let's go through some of the tracks. I have dwelled on this a little bit. Looking at track 3 first, we had the title track and Dirty Boys. Track 3, The Stars Are Out Tonight. See those stars, a recurring theme. Those anthropomorphized, sexless and unaroused and unsettling, beaming like blackened sunshine. It's a real rocker. Love is lost makes you seem ominous, newness abounds, but still your fear is old. Wicked guitar break back in the mix, and there's some sinister keyboards. The song is about a troubled young girl, possibly suicidal, and it has a feel like a song from Earthling. Track 3 is probably the best on the album, Where Are They Now? It's a very much a resigned look at old age, and yes, it's utterly brilliant. Breathtaking ballad with great arrangements, treads reminiscence, and that sweet piano knits with the strings to the mesmerising vocals that recall life's pleasures. Montages sounds heard as we head to the outro. Valentine's Day is next up. It's a mid-paced depiction of a character with a tiny face and scrawny hands. Jangling guitars mesh with David's vocals to create a 70s palette, very much in the Ziggy style romp. Then we go to If You Can See Me. This experimental cut proclaims amidst spacey, tumbling rhythms and scattered jumbles of notes and words. I will slaughter your kind, he says, and it has Earthling connections again. There's a frantic collision between drums, keyboards and vocals. The hurried vocals reveal sweat and anxiety in equal amounts. Then we've got I'd Rather Be High, a furious anti-war song. The guitar is a reminder of youthful innocence. Nice guitar riff with catchy recurring chords and solid drums. 9, we've got Boss of Me, recalls Scary Monsters no less. I love the sleazy rhythmic horns colliding with vocals, keys and rhythm section. And then we're on to Dancing Out of Space, a Let's Dance like intro with whiny guitar, and again Scary Monsters is in your head. To track 11, How Does the Grass Grow? This poses the question, would you still love me if the clocks could go backwards? It's a nod back to those 60s choruses. Explosive guitar section drives a drony beat. It's a bit of a graveyard tale, however. Remember the dead, they were so great, some of them, David sings. 12, You Will Set the World on Fire, seemingly addresses his pre-stardom self. You Really Got Me type of riff and slick confidence, reminding us that he's always had what it takes. Elegiac nostalgia, fast rock punk like. It reminded me a little bit of Tin Machine with that frantic vocals keeping pace with the rhythm. And so to 13, You Feel So Lonely You Could Die, a very bleak tale about a hapless Cold War assassin. And then the final track, although there are lots of bonus tracks, the final track's Heat. It's full of spaced out vocals, ominous noises and bangs, keening strings and disturbing impressionistic poetry. Bowie actually encompassed 42 words on the sleeve. Apparently these were words that he wanted to communicate with this album. And finally, just a brief mention of the people on this album. and it's got to be said, Tony Visconti is pretty evident throughout with string arrangements, guitars and bass guitars. Earl Slick, his old guitar player, turns up on 3 tracks, and Tony Levine, bass on 4. He was with Peter Gabriel and King Crimson. So there you have it. That's my brief look at the Next Day by David Bowie. Go to number 2 then, Crimson Red. This is the first 100% new album under the moniker of Prefab Sprout. For those counting, it would be their 10th. It's the first, though, since 2001, The Gunman and Other Stories. That was a remarkable record, if less than perky. But it is remarkable first for its very best tracks. And here we've got more of the same. Secondly, of course, this is the genesis of one Paddy McAloon, who was the singer and songwriter of Prefab Sprout. He's faced a variety of challenges over the last decade in recording and releasing new music, no less temporary blindness caused by detached retinas, and that became the inspiration for his official solo album, I Trawl the Megahertz, which was released in 2009. McAloon's manager persuaded Paddy to dig out the tape of an incomplete Prefab Sprout album from '92 called Let's Change the World with Music. But it was basically an extremely elaborate home demo using virtually all electronically simulated sounds, which have been presented to the record company with a view to recording. However, it was shelved, but finally released. Good enough record. But let's get on to this record, Crimson Red. It's got very much authentic 1980s style production values on this. The tracks of this, but I must say from the outset that every track on this album I love. The best Jewel Thief in the world, well-crafted, clever pop song gets us off to a great start. Then we got the List of Impossible Things. It's reminiscent of McAloon's classic Nightingales, with its gentle lyrical plea for wonder at the amazing unlikeliness of all, which we dismiss as ordinary. Musically, this provides the most interesting, memorable and provocative melody. A few dabs into the lyrics I will read. Crazy the mystic song, but what if they're right all along? Trust what you cannot know and pray till your prayers make it so. Adolescence is next. Not a lot to say about that one, but Devil Came A-Calling, which is track 3, again, charming, articulate and urban, describes this song, and it sums up the whole album. I like track 5, Grief Built the Taj Mahal, based on a factual account of how the Taj Mahal was built after the emperor lost his wife tragically at an early age. Number 6 on this album is Billy. It's a soaring pop gen. Sounds like it must have come to McAloon in a dream. A thrilling, exuberant tune, lifting a paean to music, to love, and to musical instruments found lying in the snow. McAloon's singing has never been more marvellous and beautiful. Here's a bit of an extract to let your feelings show. Your feelings show. Trumpets come, trumpets go. It's amazing what gets left out in the snow. Let Your Feelings Show is a takeaway from the trumpet playing protagonist in the song. And that's how you play great music, and maybe how you find true love as well. I'm going to cut this short because I really want you to get stuck into this album. The song of Danny Galway returns us to McAloon's Irish roots. It's an absolute gem again. The Old Musician, track 9, has a bouncy melody and a wryly humorous metaphor of the old magician, a poignant meditation on old age, decay, and yes, death. A mid-song harmonica break, which is electronic, I believe, provides perhaps the most cathartic few seconds of music on the entire record. Some lyric: the old magician takes the stage, his act has not improved with age. Observe the shabby hat and gloves, the tired act that no one loves. The old magician takes the stage, with sleight of hand he'll disengage. As dignified as you allow, he'll take his final bow. He's lost all his illusions now. Absolutely gorgeous. That's my number 2, Crimson Red by Prefab Sprout. My number 1, and this might come as a little bit of a surprise, it's a very personal favourite, and it's Electric by Richard Thompson. This collection of songs was recorded in Nashville. It does have a country feel to it, but it's not a country record. It's folk rock at its best, with a live in the studio feel, and there's very little editing on this. There's a bonanza of Thompson's guitar work with his razor sharp style, and contrary to the title, does include some acoustic driven songs with Thompson's finger dexterity and sublime chord changes to the fore. 45 years on he is with his career, but he's still one of the best guitarists around. And of course there are the song stories, uniquely quizzical, bringing the sounds to life with touches of humour and characters from Thompson's past and imagined past. There's a short EP with the album which gives you more indulgences into Thompson's vast catalogue of songs. Some may be surprised to see this at number 1, but I make no apologies. It has slipped under my radar, and I hope it slips under yours. We're going to have a little taste of some of the lyric. Stony Ground is a great song, opens the album. Stony ground a stomping, gone long thorns stony. Old man Morris got it bad last week, fell for the widow from across the street. She clipped him in the ear and she told him what's what. Still, but he couldn't keep his mind off her honey pot. Silly old man with his teeth all gone, poking his nose where it don't belong. She's a rose all right, but she's got thorns. You're working on stony ground. Lost his heart to buxom Betty, throwing out the compliments like confetti. Left and right he threw them all around, but everything landed on the stony ground. Isn't it lovely? And here's a very short extract from another standout track, Sally B. Sally B, oh Sally B, you make my heart flutter. Will you drag me from the gutter? Sally B, oh Sally B, I'm a working man truly, but you know how to woo me. Now the bank's repossession, it's hard times I'm guessing. You've got the style, touches the people. You've got the style, touches the people. Now they talk way down south without moving their mouth, and the houses are old antebellum. There you'll find supporters, revolutionary daughters, who'll bereave everything that you'll tell them. Okay, I just threw that in really. Not very well read, I have to say. So that's it. My number 1, Electric by Richard Thompson. That completes 2013. Been a bit of a long video this. Hope you stay with me to the end. Do get to listen to these. There will be audio links from YouTube in the description. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.